There is a mistake that destroys more financial dreams than economic crises, inflation, or lack of opportunity. And the most dangerous part is that it makes no noise. It doesn't shout. It doesn't cause scandal. It doesn't draw attention. It seeps into routine. It disguises itself as normality. And little by little, it builds an entire life of scarcity. This silent error is not in the market. It's not in the government. It's not in your city. It is in the way you think. And above all, in the way you decide every single day. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in history, observed something that almost no one wanted to admit. Most people are not poor because they lack money. They are poor because they live in patterns that sabotage any form of growth. Carnegie started from nothing. No inheritance, no privileges, no shortcuts. But he had something rare: awareness of patterns. He understood that wealth is not born from a single big event. It is born from the daily repetition of right decisions, and scarcity from the daily repetition of small, impulsive, unconscious decisions. And this is where the silent error begins. The error is not how much you earn, it's what you do with what you earn. Many people believe their financial problem is earning too little. But Carnegie knew earning more money does not fix a disorganized mind. If the pattern is to spend everything, more money only accelerates the problem. If the pattern is impulsive living, more income only creates bigger debts. If the pattern is short-term thinking, more opportunities only generate more waste. The silent error is treating every increase in income as permission to raise your lifestyle, instead of strengthening your structure. Most people do this without realizing it. They earn a little more, spend a little more, and remain exactly where they were. Working more, getting more tired, depending more. Carnegie did the opposite. While many asked, "How much does this allow me to spend now?" he asked, "What kind of future can this finance?" Scarcity begins with short-term thinking. The silent error grows stronger when you live only to fix the present. When every decision is made to relieve the now, and never to build the future. Buying to relieve anxiety, spending to feel belonging, trading planning for momentary comfort. This doesn't look like a serious mistake. It even seems justifiable. But added up over years, this behavior builds an invisible prison. Carnegie understood that the greatest enemy of wealth is not hardship. It is haste. The haste to see results. The haste to look successful. The haste to consume what has not yet been built. While some accept living slightly below their means today, to live far above them tomorrow, others do the opposite and pay that price with interest. The silent error disguises itself as normal life. Here is the real danger. The silent error looks normal. Everyone does it. Everyone lives this way. Everyone says, "That's just how it is." Working all month and having nothing left. Living without reserves. Not investing. Not studying money. Not tracking numbers. Not planning. This doesn't cause immediate pain. And that is exactly why it doesn't cause change. Carnegie said the most dangerous moment in financial life is not when you lack everything. It's when things are okay. Okay numbs you. It doesn't hurt enough to force change. And it doesn't grow enough to bring freedom. Meanwhile, the silent error keeps deciding for you. Money doesn't run from you, it avoids those without structure. Carnegie understood something profound. Money is not emotional. It doesn't feel pity. It doesn't feel anger. It has no personal preferences. It simply flows where structure exists. If you are disorganized, it comes and goes. If you are impulsive, it disappears. If you are inconsistent, it doesn't stay. The silent error is believing money is the problem, when in reality, money only reveals the problem. It amplifies habits, amplifies patterns, amplifies decisions. That's why so many people earn a lot and lose everything. It wasn't bad luck. It was incompatibility. The final error, confusing effort with direction. Perhaps the cruelest trap is this: working hard, but without direction. Effort without strategy doesn't build wealth. It builds exhaustion. Carnegie worked hard, yes, but every effort had purpose. Every move had logic. Every decision fit into a larger plan. Most people simply react to life, react to bills, react to emergencies, react to emotions, and those who live reacting never build position. The silent error does not begin in adulthood. It starts early. It is learned through observation, watching how adults handle money, listening to conversations filled with fear, hearing phrases repeated as absolute truths. Money is hard. If you're born poor, you die poor. That's not for people like us. Better not take risks. These ideas don't enter as conscious decisions. They enter as programming. When you grow up in that environment, you learn to associate money with tension, with risk, with conflict. And then, even when opportunity appears, something locks up. You move forward, but never beyond a certain invisible limit. Andrew Carnegie observed that most people live inside a mental fence they never question. They don't know where the limits are. They simply feel they shouldn't cross them. The invisible ceiling of scarcity. This error creates a ceiling. You may earn a little more, grow a little, improve your life, but whenever you get close to something bigger, something happens. An impulsive expense, a rushed decision, a poorly thought-out investment, an opportunity abandoned too soon. Then comes the classic phrase, "It wasn't meant for me," but in reality, it was the pattern at work. Carnegie understood that scarcity rarely comes from one massive failure. It comes from repeated small concessions, accepting less than your worth, not negotiating, not asking, not trying. Everything seems too small to matter until a lifetime passes. Why earning more doesn't fix it. Here is one of the hardest truths. If the silent error is not corrected, earning more money only accelerates the cycle. The person increases spending, increases commitments, increases dependency, and remains stuck. Carnegie used to say that wealth does not begin with income. It begins with control. Control of time, control of habits, control of decisions. Without that, money becomes a temporary visitor. It comes in and leaves. Fear disguised as prudence. One of the most dangerous disguises of the silent error is this: I'm just being prudent. It sounds mature. It sounds responsible. But often, it is simply well-articulated fear. Fear of failing. Fear of losing. Fear of appearing ambitious. Carnegie understood that growth requires uncomfortable decisions. It requires acting before you have every guarantee. It requires standing by your choices without immediate validation. Those who wait for absolute security usually never move. Scarcity is a behavior, not a balance. The silent error makes you believe scarcity is a lack of money. But first and foremost, it is a lack of internal structure. It appears when you live without planning, avoid looking at numbers, treat money as emotion, decide on impulse, abandon processes too early. Carnegie tracked everything. Margins, efficiency, not out of obsession, but out of awareness. Awareness creates control. Control creates growth. The moment most people quit, there is a critical point. The moment when you start acting differently, but still don't see results. This is where almost everyone gives up. They save for a few months and stop. They invest for a year and quit. They study for weeks and return to old routines. But Carnegie understood something fundamental. Discipline is invisible before it becomes inevitable. The early years don't look like progress. They look like sacrifice. But those who remain steady while others fluctuate build advantage. The final error, confusing comfort with security. The silent error completes itself when you choose comfort over growth. You avoid tension, avoid effort, avoid risk. But prolonged comfort generates stagnation. If everything in your life feels comfortable, something is wrong. Growth requires friction. It demands decisions that make your stomach tighten. It requires giving up now to gain later. Carnegie gave up temporary comfort to achieve permanent control. There is a silent moment, almost invisible, when a person stops living in scarcity. It's not when they earn more money. It's not when they close a major deal. It's not when everything improves externally. It's when they stop negotiating with themselves. Andrew Carnegie observed that a man begins to grow wealthy the day he decides to take full control. No excuses, no outsourcing responsibility, no self-deception. Up to that point, a person always finds justifications. Now isn't the right time. When things get better. After I earn more. But the turning point comes when they understand. Nothing changes before the decision comes first. Scarcity feeds on delay. The silent error loves later. Later I'll organize. Later I'll invest. Later I'll study. Later I'll change. But later is not time. It is avoidance disguised. Carnegie said the most expensive cost in life is not making mistakes. It is postponing important decisions. Every delayed decision charges invisible interest. Lost time. Wasted energy. Opportunities that never return. Scarcity does not destroy you quickly. It wears you down slowly. The day you stop feeling like a victim. Another decisive point is this. The silent error keeps you comfortable in the role of victim. As long as the blame belongs to the system, the government, the economy, family, the past, you don't have to change. But Carnegie was uncompromising on this point. Those who do not assume total responsibility cannot sustain wealth. Wealth requires the emotional maturity to say, maybe it's not fair, but it is still my responsibility. That mindset is liberating because it restores control. The exchange that changes everything. Consumer builder. The silent error keeps you thinking like a consumer. Consumer of salary. Consumer of opportunities. Consumer of content. Consumer of promises. Carnegie thought like a builder. Builder of systems. Builder of assets. Builder of position. The consumer asks, how much does this give me now? The builder asks, what can this become over time? As long as you think only about the present, scarcity remains. When you begin thinking in terms of structure, it starts to weaken. The silence most people fear. There is a phase almost no one can endure. The phase of silence. You begin acting differently, spending less, studying more, investing carefully, planning. But no one sees, no one applauds, no one recognizes it. And the silent error whispers, this isn't working. But Carnegie understood. The greatest results are born far from the spotlight. Those who need constant validation quit early. Those who endure silence build something solid. The discipline that truly separates. Here is the discipline that destroys scarcity. Spending less than you earn even when you could spend more. Investing before increasing your lifestyle. Studying when no one is watching. Sticking to the plan when results take time. Repeating the right decisions even when they are boring. It is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is effective. And money respects what works, not what impresses. The final error before liberation. The last trick of scarcity is this. It makes you believe you have already done enough. That you have tried too hard. That you have waited too long. That you have made sufficient effort. But Carnegie said wealth begins when effort stops being sporadic and becomes a standard. It is not about trying. It is about maintaining. It is not about starting. It is about continuing. The point of no return. When you correct the silent error, something happens. You begin to think before spending. Decide before reacting. Plan before acting. Invest before consuming. Persist when others quit. At that point, scarcity loses strength. Not because money has arrived, but because the foundation has been built. And when the foundation exists, growth has something to stand on. Closing this section, the silent error that keeps people in scarcity is not ignorance. It is tolerance. Tolerating bad habits. Tolerating easy decisions. Tolerating excessive comfort. Tolerating postponing what matters. Andrew Carnegie proved that origin does not define destiny, but patterns define outcomes. There is a day, quiet, ordinary, nothing spectacular, when scarcity loses its power. Not because your bank account exploded, Not because someone saved you, but because you changed your decision-making pattern. On that day, you stop operating on autopilot. You look at an expense and ask, does this build or does it consume? You look at an opportunity and ask, does this create structure or just temporary relief? You look at your time and ask, does this move me forward or merely keep me busy? At that point, the silent error begins to die. The truth almost no one can handle. Most people are not stuck because they don't know what to do. They are stuck because they don't do what they know. The silent error is not ignorance. It is inconsistency. You need to plan, invest, study, control spending, remain consistent. But you repeatedly choose the more comfortable path. Andrew Carnegie understood that the world does not reward intention. It rewards sustained patterns. Why scarcity always returns if you don't change the foundation. Many people even have a good year. They earn more, close a deal, receive an opportunity, but then they return to the same place. Why? Because the foundation didn't change. The money was greater, but the behavior was the same. Scarcity is not a lack of money. It is a lack of internal structure to sustain growth. Without structure, money leaks. Time is wasted. Energy disperses. The moment you become dangerous in a good way, there is a point when something changes permanently. You become predictable to yourself. You will. Invest even without excitement. Study even when tired. Stick to the plan without applause. Say no despite social pressure. At that point, you become dangerous to scarcity. Because scarcity depends on impulse, emotion, distraction, disorganization. Quiet discipline destroys all of it. The difference between those who leave and those who stay. Everyone starts motivated. Few remain. What separates them is not talent. It is tolerance for the process. Most quit when results take time. Enthusiasm fades. Recognition doesn't come. But those who persist build invisible advantage. While some fluctuate, you accumulate. While some react, you plan. While some consume, you structure. And when growth appears, it seems sudden, but only to those who never saw the backstage. The final shift in identity. The silent error makes you think, when I earn more, I'll change. The truth is the opposite. When you change, you earn more. Wealth does not transform character. It amplifies it. That's why the work begins beforehand. In the habit. In the small decision. In the repeated behavior. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and begin seeing yourself as someone who executes. Not perfect, but consistent. The definitive closing. Let's end with the clearest truth possible. You are not in scarcity because the world owes you something. You are there because you accepted a lower standard than you are capable of sustaining. And that is not condemnation. It is liberation. Because if a pattern brought you here, a new pattern can take you further. The final question is not about money. It is about decision. Will you continue living as you have reacted until now? Or will you accept the discomfort of building something greater in silence? Scarcity does not end with luck. It ends with pattern. And the pattern changes when you decide without negotiating with yourself. You act even without motivation. You persist even without applause. Few do this. That's why few leave. But those who leave do not return. And that is the end of the silent error. There is a silent point, almost imperceptible, when you can no longer pretend you don't know. After recognizing the silent error, understanding how it operates, realizing how many times you fed it, going back to autopilot hurts more than changing. That is the real turning point. Andrew Carnegie understood that the greatest transformation does not happen when everything improves. It happens when awareness shifts. From that moment on, every choice carries more weight. Every decision leaves a trace. Every compromise becomes visible. And that frightens many people. Because now, you can no longer blame the world. Scarcity doesn't disappear, and that's good. Here is something few people say. Scarcity does not completely disappear. It loses control. It keeps trying, tempting you with shortcuts, offering immediate comfort, suggesting that you quit. But now it no longer decides. You decide. And that is the first form of real wealth. Authority over yourself. The real price of financial freedom. Let's be honest. Escaping scarcity is expensive. It costs less validation, less applause, less immediate fun, less social acceptance. You may seem extreme to some, cold to others, obsessed to those who don't understand. But Carnegie knew. No one builds something great by trying to please everyone. The freedom you want requires disappointing other people's expectations. What actually changes in practice? After the silent error is eliminated, your life begins to change in simple yet profound details. You plan before spending, think before agreeing, invest before consuming, study before acting, remain when others quit. Nothing explodes, nothing goes viral, nothing looks impressive, but everything accumulates. And accumulation changes destinies. Time begins to work for you. At first, time feels slow, then fair, then powerful. While most people trade time for money, you begin trading discipline for position. And position creates power. Carnegie did not become wealthy because he worked more hours. He became wealthy because he built structures that kept working without him. That is the real game. The final trap. The silent error's last attempt is this: to make you believe you've already gone far enough, that you're already better than before, that now you can relax. But scarcity loves long pauses. What pulled you out of it must be maintained, or it will pull you back. Wealth is not a destination. It is a sustained pattern. The definitive closing. Let's end with the most direct truth possible. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more information. You don't need more promises. You need coherence. Coherence between what you say you want and what you do every day. Andrew Carnegie proved that. Origin does not define destiny. Luck does not sustain wealth. Talent without discipline does not scale. What builds is decision plus repetition plus time. And now everything comes down to one final question, simple, hard, and honest. Will you continue living as someone waiting for something to change? Or will you live as someone who decided to be the cause of their own change? Because the silent error survives only while it is tolerated. The day you stop tolerating it, it loses strength. And on that day, scarcity stops being a destiny and becomes only a phase you have outgrown. And